I think when you look at, it's the unknown parts of the Amazons or when the DIYs did it. I think that's the biggest fear. Think about what we deal with every day. We get all wrapped up into that, yet in any given market, you have 5, 10, 15, 20 competitors doing the same thing with relationships, not running you out of town. So I think when there's that, yes, there may be a little shift, there may be something. I mean, you need to be cognizant of it. We need to advance just because of the way everybody procures anything. I mean, I'm sure all of you 10 years ago did very little looking or shopping or actual buying online, and I'm sure that percentage today is increased. So I don't think we have to do it as much for Amazon. We're always going to have competitors. We do now. We have everyone trying to eat our lunch and drop the price and do it. That's never going to change. I think it's just how we try to keep up with the trends to be relevant. And whether it's called Amazon or Grainger or whoever. I mean, you look at some of the nationals, Gray Bars, what they have that. I mean, Gray Bar have, what's Gray Bar have that, or vice versa. Amazon have that Gray Bar doesn't. You can order stuff and have it tomorrow. I mean, so I guess I think it's the unknown part that everybody tends to get a little agita over, but the irony is we deal with that type of competition every single day.
Jace Rosendahl, Dakota Supply Group, Rochester, Minnesota. In the interest of planning for the next generation of leadership, what can we, as the people that are aspiring to be that, do to be involved in that strategy? We come to these conferences and other NAED events, and we hear a lot of the talk, but just based on feedback, not many of us are involved in that strategy planning. So what are you guys doing, and what can we do to help that strategy and get that stuff in place?
Strategy for your company?
Yeah, as the company planning for next generation.
I mean, obviously, to your point, every organization is going to be a little different about what access you have to that type. But I would say to whatever your access, whether it's more on entry level or all the way up to a leadership or executive style team, that I would just continue to make sure you're known, you know what I mean, that you raise your hand. You're not afraid to take on a project, to say that you want to be involved, to start a committee, to do all that. And it's going to be varying levels, but I think it's making sure that whatever leadership you're referring to knows that you want your name in that hat. And then it's up to you to perform. It's up to you to do that. But I think a lot of the times, I can't tell you some of the experiences, I'm sure everybody up here has had it, where you hire somebody and then somebody walks into your office is like, I'm really disappointed I was looked over. You never said anything. You never had the conversation that you'd even want that. And I know it sounds very fundamental, but there's a lot of occasions where make sure it's known, maybe not to an annoyance, but make sure it's known that you want to be at that level and that you want to be, whether it's groomed or a part of the decision.
I would say if you have ideas too, don't just share the idea or complain about something. Help solve the problem and even put together maybe a skeleton of a business case as to why it would be successful. Everyone has an idea, but to turn an idea into action and bring value to the company, take a few of those steps to make sure that it will bring some value to the company and what that value might be.
First, Jace, thank you for sponsoring lunch today. That was delicious, by the way. Good choice. And thank you for the nugget of information. That's something that we probably hadn't thought about, is getting our younger people directly involved in that. We'll sit around and talk about that, and our HR lady is trying to tell us that we got to be able to do this and that, and she's basing it on, she's my age, and she's basing it on a seminar that she went to. But getting the new recruits involved in that conversation, I think, is really good. One thing that I noted, I try to meet the new people when they come in and kind of give them a little bit of history on 3E, is our new thing for onboarding. But one of the things that almost frightened me the first couple of people that I met was them saying, well, I really like your website, and it was interactive or this, and I'm thinking, because I don't think of our website as selling to our customers. I know that's coming and it's becoming more popular, but I kind of thought of the website as just, we got to have something that makes makes the marketing team happy to work on that. No, but prospective employees are looking at that. When they see, when they find your name somewhere or have a friend tell them about 3E, first thing they do is go to your website. And holy cow, so now I'm all supportive of making sure our website is interactive. But I like that point. Another thing that happened within our company that we had this grassroots thing, and Corey, I don't know if I think they named themselves, but they don't allow managers to be on their committees, and I think it's called Customer First, but they came up with a clever name for their group. They don't allow managers to be on it, but they wanted our support. They wanted to know that we would back them, and they come to us and share some ideas that they're working on, and they want to make it all internal and improving processes within our company to make the customers have a better experience. So along those lines, I could see starting a committee, with our millennials. Thank you.
So, panel, in the theory and the theme of learning from each other, I was going to see if you guys had any questions that you wanted to ask our great group of young leaders here in the audience, and if there's anyone brave enough to stand up and answer these questions.
What keeps you all motivated to stay in this industry?
Does anyone want to share what keeps you motivated? Matt Russell.
Yeah, the thing that keeps me motivated in the industry is I grew up in the industry. My dad was an electrician and now is an electrical inspector. And I'm, I guess, second generation into the electrical field. So for me, I want to bring up the next generation. Larry talked about last night being that heir apparent to his father's firm. So for me, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to talk to my niece who's 11 and my other niece who's 21, who's in college not knowing what she's going to do, trying to provide insights about what this industry has, because that's what we lack, is that backfill of talent. So for me as a manufacturer, anytime I can take someone out, my inside sales team, take them out to try to bring them up to my position, that's what's driving me, because they have more insight on what's coming from tomorrow than we have today. So that's what's keeping me going.
Hi, Eric Hoff, Crescent Electric Supply. It's a little loud, sorry. I think one of the things that keeps me going is the opportunity, the growth, and the way to sort of take the new technologies and apply it to the industry. I mean, it's kind of a dated industry. Stale, male, and pale has always kind of been the moniker, and I think a lot of us have heard that. But how can you, sort of infuse that new energy, utilize some of the new technologies, kind of bringing electrical distribution out of the dark ages and into more of the, 21st century, So, but the opportunities are there. There's a new change of guard that'll be coming down in the next, every day there's new people retiring and things of that nature, but sort of have to reload and recruit and things of that nature too. So it's one of the things that kind of keeps me going. So.
Jeff Ciani from Lutron. Gentleman over there kind of said it a little bit, but changing technology, I think, allows us for the ability to get more involved on sustainability as well as environmental impacts. I think the electrical industry is primed to move into a really influential role into how that's going to start impacting the planet, and we're always coming out with all this these new efficient technologies that can just keep us relevant. And so that kind of motivates me to see what is next and how we can all help out in that aspect too. So
I get motivated because of the sexiness of the industry. It's that cool. Kidding.
Right.
Actually, a couple things that you had said, Eric. I think it's kind of neat to think about what is going to happen next. We have all this turnover happening with us and with our customer base. So who's going to run all these companies doing all this construction and using the products that we offer? And then the other thing, I think I left the industry for about 9 years and I was teaching high school, and I miss the people. I miss there's a pragmatism and an unpretentiousness to it that I just missed. So that's a motivator for me that I hope doesn't go away as we consolidate.
I do want to clarify something. I mean, this is a sexy industry. I don't know why we keep saying it isn't. I mean, think about life without electricity. and think about what we do to improve that quality of life for every person in the U.S., across the country, across the world. And just think what lighting, what an impact and a difference that makes on our lives, and everything else connected to electricity. So I really get annoyed by people saying this isn't an interesting or sexy industry, because think about what we do every day and how enriched lives are because of our role in the supply chain. So go back and sell that in your branches, in your offices, when you're on campus, at high schools, colleges, trade schools. I mean, this is a sexy industry. It's a lot of fun, and we have an amazing impact on everyone in the country. So keep selling that. I mean, this is fun. I don't know, maybe I've been drinking the Kool-Aid too long, but this is a sexy industry.
No passion there at all. How about just another question, kind of on along those same lines, but what, either from, not as much us up here, but from leadership of the organizations you're in, what aren't we doing well? What's not working as a whole? I don't mean down to specifics in one of your branches, but as a whole, you see leadership today, whether it be the generational gap. Mark, you're not allowed to answer this because City's perfect. So for anybody else, what's not working?
This is Paul with Wire Express again. One of the things that I saw at multiple companies I've been at, and it's a struggle, is something that you spoke to, Tammy. We get all of this data now. This data is available. People are collecting it, and it's frustrating when you're at any level, the sales, that as you move up, you know this data is being collected, you're being held to it, and then you don't see anything done with it. So we understand why people are taking the data, because hopefully it'll be useful, but then when it's not used for anything, it's frustrating for us, because we kind of feel like we're being managed to nothing almost. For what reason? So we have to find a better way to use that data.
Great point.
Thank you, Paul. We got over here.
So fairly new to the industry, been in the industry for about 6 years, and I would agree in to your sentiment that the industry is sexy, but I don't know that we do a good job of marketing that it's sexy, right? So to me, as it relates to what we can do better, we don't market that well, and consequently, the people that are coming up into the industry don't look at it as if it's sexy, right? So that translates into recruiting, right? Everybody knows Google, everybody knows Amazon, but they don't know us. Right? So to me, that's something we've got to do better.
I would say, going back to the culture piece, I think a lot of companies in the industry have an idea of what they think their culture is, but in reality and actuality, it's a far disconnect from what it is from day to day. So getting more engaged on the ground level of what truly is my culture, and not from a managerial standpoint of what I perceive or hope my culture is.
So how do you do that? How do you make sure that cascades through the organization?
I think one of the things you mentioned earlier is your company has a task force or a team that says no managers allowed. Putting together grassroots efforts like that, and having those focus groups and those conversations, and then once you identify what those cultural gaps are, being committed from a leadership standpoint to actually do something about it, and not make it something that we put on a task list and it goes on a shelf and we'll get to it next year. It has to become a priority, and use that same group of people to fix the priority.
Great.
I love that Steve is taking notes up here. That is great. He's going to go back and implement these things. That's good. I think we had a question back here from someone, or someone else wanted to comment.
There was one up there, yeah.
I think part of it comes down to accessibility too, from a training standpoint. So we've talked about being able to grow, these new folks into the industry and providing those tools to them. I think part of it too, from a management standpoint, it's not. I'm not speaking just from my company. I've seen it from a lot of manufacturers and a lot of competitors, and I've had friends leave the industry and folks come into the industry, and I'm in charge of bringing new folks in on a daily basis. And I see this gap of having the time to develop the talent. We've got all these tools out there. That's great, but I think you also have to have access to the manager, access to the the higher level executives to answer those questions, kind of like the panel we have going on here today, but at a company level. And I think it just will help benefit as we try to recruit and bring in new people to this sexy industry. So.